Hello, everyone. This is Stacy. Welcome to the landing. Today on the landing, we are joined by someone who truly embodies the spirit of Down East. A lifelong resident with salt water running through his veins, he carries with him the rhythm of the tides, the strength of his roots, and a heart full of gratitude for the people and places that have shaped him. Known and loved by all who cross his path, he is a storyteller, a steward of tradition, and a proud voice of our heritage. So pull up a chair and listen up. This is a conversation you do not want to miss. Hello, and welcome back to the landing. We have got a treat for you folks. This gentleman that's joining us today is a treasure. He's a Down East treasure, and he's laughing already. I do anticipate some laughter happening today. So before we go any further, please tell us your name, who's your crowd, and where you're from.
My name is Billy Merkley. All my roots are to Harker's Island. I live actually in Gloucester, but Harker's Island is my home. I'm married to Heidi Hewitt from Beaufort. We have 4 children: Alan Bell, Allison Willis, Tracy Merkley, and Landon Merkley. And we do have a grandson that'll be 2 years old, and he's full of joy. I'm kin to the Willises and the Guthries. My grandmother was Kathleen, originally Willis. A lot of you that know me or know the island, she was always called Aunt Laney, and that's going to be another segment. Grandfather was Leslie Guthrie, and our roots are, as what I call, we're right in the heart of Chinatown, right behind Verl's Boathouse.
Yep.
That's where my childhood memories start, especially from the Landon.
Mm-hmm. Yes, and you know all about a Landon, don't you?
I know all about a Landon. I guess I'm going to jump a little bit here.
Please, jump all around. It's fine.
Well, speaking of the Landon, it's spelled Landing, Landing, and I was coming across the bridge this morning. I was thinking of the Landon. Anyway, when my Landon was a baby, we had purchased a wood boat, and we actually named it the Perfect Landon, which, if the way we would say it would be the Perfect Landon. Right. Where we would go to the shore at. It wasn't that he was a perfect child or none of that.
Right. It was Landon without the G. And we say Landon. We don't say landing.
Sometimes our heritage and our brogue or whatever, we're misunderstood a whole lot.
Yes, we are. But that's okay. We like it that way. The older I get, the more I like it that way, actually.
We get treated, and I work with the county, but there's a lot of people that's not from here, and they have a lot of trouble understanding me. I don't think I got a brogue. I don't think I talk funny, but I guess I do, because people sometimes, I had to slow down. Okay, this is what I'm saying.
Syllable by syllable.
So
that's so funny.
Anyway, I grew up here. Want to talk about Harker's Island School.
Okay. Yeah.
Stacy, you went to Harker's Island School 8 years. Yeah. And one of the things I say about growing up, my class, what I call my class, is not the class I graduated from East Carter. My people are the ones I spent 8 years with every day.
Billy, I'm going to say this before you continue. My class, have a reunion about every other year, but it's my Harker's Island class. and we get together and somewhere. But that's, like you said, that's my crowd.
Yep. Which I actually tried to a few years ago, and I actually created a little Facebook page. Was trying to get some interest in that, but it just a lot going on.
It's so hard, and we'll do it, and sometimes we'll have everybody, sometimes we don't. But that is my core. It's not like you said. I love the crowd I graduated with from East Carter, but when I think about the ones I want to continue to be with all the time,
well, actually, when I went to high school, you spent 8 years with these people, most of them's family, and I really kind of drifted away from the original crew, but deep down, that's still my class. I went. The boys were Jimmy Paler, Dean Johnson, Donald Gabriel, Joe Nelson. Phew, I wish I had a list. And some of them are gone.
Yes, I know. I was thinking that when you're saying it. Yeah, my sister Tanya was in your class.
Tanya actually got moved up.
She did.
I think maybe the 6th grade, 5th grade. I don't remember.
I think it. I think it was even maybe younger than that. But yeah, she joined your class.
Because Dwayna's a year ahead of me. And Tanya got moved in there, and you're a little bit behind me.
Oh, I'm so young.
We're not going to get into ages. We're the same age now.
That's right. We really are. We really
anyway, now I'll say this before we go any further. I don't know if you've ever been there, but Smith Island, Maryland, there's it's 3 little islands in the middle of Chesapeake Bay, only accessible by boat.
Oh, wow.
And they have the school on Ewell, Ewell. And I went with Karen and Jimmy, and the whole crowd of us went up there one February. It actually got snow. I didn't think we were going to get home because you got to take a ferry. No vehicles.
Oh, wow.
But anyway, on Ewell, there's a miniature Harkers Island school. If I can find the picture, I know I got it. I'll send it to you. But it looks like Harkers Island School, but half the size.
If you can find that, send it, and we'll post it with this. That would be really neat.
And we actually visited that school. At the time, there was only like 9 or 10 students in there. I think the school's finally closed.
Wow. Okay, so let's talk about Harkers Island Elementary a little bit. What are your memories of that?
Well, I remember starting there. We moved back home. I was in the 1st grade. I had Janet Turner, I think. I think some of them were still there. A lot of them were still there. Suzanne Guthrie, 3rd grade. I spent a lot of time with Suzanne Guthrie to her mama's house. Have you been there?
It's beautiful. Yes.
I still tell Suzanne that's one of the prettiest places on the even after they've raised it.
I agree. Completely. It's a paradise.
Of course, she used to carry us on Easter egg hunts. That's where we went.
That's where you went because you can walk there.
Walk to the school.
Oh wow. Ruth Fulcher. Did you have her or no?
The one from Marshallburg, the 1st grade, or
no, the one from Sea Level.
Yes, I had her. She was.
I'm trying to think who else was in there.
I think.
Yeah, Janice Fulcher was the first
grade. Yeah. But I think I went to Janet Turner anyway.
Yeah, I remember Miss Turner.
We moved on up. Hannah Ray.
Yeah.
Hannah Ray was strict.
Yes.
Matter of fact.
Yes.
She caught me doing something one day, carried me in the office, and said, Mr. Blair, that hydroplane paddle he had, I got my name on it. But I always respect it.
Oh, me.
And it don't even sound right to call her Hannah Ray.
Miss Beasley.
I always respected Miss Beasley. For one thing, she always told us local stuff about the banks. The story, she was the first one I ever heard talk about the old lighthouse being tore down. If you've not heard that story, you need to find it.
Wow. Okay.
But they were local, and she didn't have to go the extra mile and doing all that. But And then we had some TAs, I guess. I thought she was a teacher.
Yeah.
We had Miss Lita. Was Miss Lita there? Miss Frankie.
Miss Frankie.
But there was a special. Ad. Anyway, let me try to get this out because she was special to me. Miss Eula Mae Brooks.
Oh, yes.
I think I might have been in the fourth grade, third or fourth. I don't know, and I took a reading lab. I don't know why I took a reading lab because I always could read. But anyway,
they did that, Billy, to give themselves a break in the classroom from you. They got you out of the classroom a while.
But anyway, and maybe the good Lord saw fit that I needed to be with her.
You needed her, right?
But anyway, we would go there and read and carry on, and Eula Mae and Miss Lita, and of course I visited Lita up till she passed. They were always the type of people that, and you don't see a whole lot of it now in school. They'd come to you, they'd hug your neck, they'd tell you they love you. You can't do that today in school unless you really, you know what I'm saying?
You're right, really know them, yeah.
But I remember going in, it was one morning we were playing out there on them old monkey bars. You remember the monkey bars?
I've been killed on them 2 or 3 times, yes.
Well, we were out there playing, boy youngers. We used to play out there, and we'd play rugby with a milk carton. We didn't have a football.
Crumple it up.
Yeah. Anyway, I had tore my shoes. I'm telling you, the sole was tore. There was one thread hanging. Well, anyway, I went on a reading lab, and of course, and I remember she said,
"So you went on to school like that?"
Oh yeah.
Here I am.
It didn't matter.
Yeah.
Anyway, but I always sat here, and she would sit on this side, and I could see her right now. She looked down and she said, "Billy, what have you done to your shoes?" And anyway, I don't remember what I told her, but it didn't bother me. I didn't care. We went barefooted anyway.
I was going to say, you would rather be barefoot.
How many times did you go barefoot? Anyway.
Anytime I can still.
Anyway, we went on and finished our class, and I was home. Of course, I lived right down from the school. And I looked there, she pulled up in the yard. And so, of course, I was tickled to see her.
Yeah.
And she says, I said, "What in the world are you doing?" And she said, "Bill, I got something for you." I said, "What do you got?" So she got out and reached in the back seat and had them in a bag. I don't remember if they were in a box or nothing. I thought they were brand new. I mean, you know what I mean.
Yeah.
And I'm sure it's something, maybe Lori or Celeste, but she pulled out a pair of white Converse, low top Converse.
Wow.
Wow. And I don't even remember the shoes that I had tore up.
Right.
But when I opened them, it was like Christmas morning. Man, this is all right, And anyway,
wow.
you carry that on through life. And I was in the 7th grade when we lost her in an automobile accident, and she was probably the first, that really meant that I was old enough for somebody that means to pass. You know where I'm going.
Right. Yeah.
But I carried that story with me in my mind throughout the years, and I guess it was, I don't know, a few years ago, because a few years ago could mean 10, 20. Anyway, Heidi kept saying, "You need to start writing some of this," because I would always I've told Heidi this story over and over and over about Eula Mae.
Yeah. And
she says, "You need to write this story." So that's what I done, put it down in my words. But thinking about it, you're thinking about it later when you realize what she did. She didn't have to do it, and I always felt like that her and Miss Lita both. I always felt that if I was a bad boy, they loved me. If I was a good boy, they loved me. But you get where I'm going.
It was unconditional.
It was unconditional, and I just wish that I could. I wish I could thank her now, and how much. And I hope she knows how much that meant to me.
Yeah.
Especially in later life.
I'm sure she did.
And matter of fact, I shared it, and I've shared it. Celeste has read it. And you know, when you share a story like that, you hate to bring up the tragedy. You know, and I felt when I first shared that story, you know, maybe I ought not to post it. Maybe I ought to. You know, you're back and
Yeah.
forth. I didn't want to bring. I didn't want to bring any discomfort to Celeste, Lori, Lib.
Yeah.
But I just felt like it needed to be shared.
No,
And how much their mother meant to me, how good I loved their mother.
no, that needed to be said. It needed to be shared because I'm sure that made them, it comforted them.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
Because that's a side that they knew of their mother.
yeah.
But yeah.
And I can see Heidi's in school suspension in Beaufort Middle, and I can see it's not like it was, but I see the effort she put. There's still some,
Yeah.
you know, it's not just a job, and she comes home times and, well, this such and such, he's a killing me, but I love him.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. Yeah.
And let me tell you one thing about Miss Lita. Was she there?
I don't think so.
Miss Lita,
It was a long time
when
ago.
I was first went there, there's an old dance that they called the bunny hop.
Mm-hmm.
You know the dance
Uh-huh,
down
yeah,
on you.
yeah.
Well, Miss Lita used to do that dance
Really?
when we were little.
Yeah.
She felt a lot better, but you know, after her older years, you know, I would stop and visit with her, or I'd see her occasionally, and I'd always ask her. I said, Miss Lita, can you still do that dance? And she said, No, Billy, I'm afraid not. I said, Well, Miss Lita, if you ever get the urge to do that dance, I would love to see that one more
Please
time.
call me.
Please call me.
That's hilarious. Oh,
So,
she was a sweet lady. I
yeah.
knew her, but I don't remember. Maybe she was at school. I'm not sure. Because I remember in the reading lab, Miss Parker
Miss Parker, I forgot about Miss
and,
Parker.
of
Yeah.
course, Miss Frankie. And so I'm not sure. Maybe she was.
Yeah, I remember Miss Frankie coming around. She used to have that cart and she would sell
Yes.
pencils and paper.
Yes.
Piece of paper, a penny, a pencil. I don't know.
Yeah, that's true. Because we always needed some. Always taking everybody's. Okay, where do you want to go next?
Shoo. You finally got me blank. I'm so emotional about Miss Eula May.
I know. Well, she was a treasure. That evening was hard.
Well, let's go back to of course you know it as Chinatown.
Yeah, I spent the night there last night. No, that's of course where Mom and Daddy are now.
Yeah,
And so
yeah,
that,
yeah.
I was there last week.
I spent a lot of time of course everybody spent a lot of time with her grandparents,
Yep.
parents working or
You're
whatever.
lucky enough. Yeah.
Bunky, are you the same age of Bunky?
He was 1 year older than me. But yeah, we were always together.
Me and Bunky's cousin, his mama Nettie, and my mama are sisters. Well, me and Bunky grew up like brothers.
Uh-huh.
Me and him spent a lot of time on that shore, and every once in a while I'll ease down there, but it's not the same.
Yeah.
The old timers, I remember, you know, they would gather on the porches. And I was talking to you earlier about my grandmama was named Kathleen, but most people knew her as Aunt Laney.
Mm-hmm.
Have you heard that?
I didn't know her name was Kathleen. I've always heard Aunt Laney.
Aunt Laney. Well, her and my Aunt Nettie, which I called her, we knew her as Mummer, Mumer. That was what we called her. I don't know where that comes from.
Yeah, I don't either, but I've heard that because of being near Bunky, but yeah.
Yeah. I was there after school one day, and she asked me, she says, if something happened, because your mama's to work, Dan's to work, what would you do? I said, well, I'd call here. She said, well, do you know the number? No, I don't know the number. She said, well, how would you find a number if nobody at the school has a number? You know, we'll look it up. She said, well, what do you need to look up? I said, well, I reckon I'd look up Aunt Laney.
Because that's how it should be listed.
That's how it should be. That's what I know. Of course, Aunt Laney, Granny was, her sisters were Christine, Rose, Wink, and Bonnie, and all them's mama.
Yeah.
Well, she was Aunt Teeny.
Yes.
Okay. Carlo's mama Abby Jean. You don't remember
I
her
don't
name.
remember her.
Her name was Abby Jean, and she was Aunt Jeannie. So it was Aunt Teeny, Aunt Laney, and Aunt Jeannie.
I love it.
I didn't know what else to call them.
Yeah, that's funny.
Of course, back in the old days, everybody, whether they were kin to you or not, was Aunt such and such,
Yeah.
or Buddy Les, Buddy Earl,
Yeah.
Buddy Rogers.
Yeah, that's the truth. That's the truth. And you always had to like clarify which one you're talking about by.
Yeah. Matter of fact, I barely do remember Aunt Janie because she died when I was a young age, but I remember Aunt Teeny and my grandmama. If they called one another, Granny called Aunt Teeny. She would call her Teeny, and she would call her Laney. And I can still see some of Aunt Teeny's crowd when they talk about my grandmother. It's either Laney or Aunt Laney.
I love it. I love it. Laney and Teeny.
That's small town. That's small town. That's
that's good
tight
stuff.
knit, good stuff.
That's good stuff. Now, I do want you to talk a little bit about all these beautiful pictures that I see you post. What are they? How did that start and all that? Because you've got some gorgeous shots.
Landon was like our youngest, and we spent a lot more time with him. Landon has been around old men since he was born. I used to take him in whatever you call that baby carrier, that little basket. I would carry him to the boathouse, and he grew up. We spent a lot of time with Manly Rose, Wink, Tater, Dave Rose. He's been around. Men. Yeah, he's been around old people. So Landon is, what is he, 22? Landon's really in his 60s. But anyway, we go around. We called it the bullpen. And these older fellas talking about boats, and Landon would question me, where's that? But and then I got to realizing that not only are a lot of these captains, the owners are gone, these boats were disappearing. Mm-hmm. Old age, they just weren't there anymore. So he was just a little fella, and I took pictures up and down from right on to South Carolina, go and taking pictures of what boats I could.
Wow.
And I tell you, a lot of the boats that I've got are gone. History.
Wow. So it was intentional, the boats that you found, you would find their owners now or where they were? I mean, was it a hunt sometimes?
Sometimes it was a hunt. Of course, boats change names. Anyway, you'd find a boat, that looks like that was, well, anyway, there's a documentation page that you could actually look the boats up and tell you previous owners. You could get some information. It's like the old Captain Stacy 2 trawler is Jimmy Gillikin owns it now, and I think it's the Captain James.
Oh, really?
Yep. And so I had worked on that boat at one time, but it was the Captain Stacy 2 at the time.
Wow.
So, some of them still around are just under a different disguise, but a lot of them's gone.
Yeah. And do a lot of them just waste away in the weather, or
some has been accidentally, but a lot of them, especially the ones that own the boats, they age out. They get to where they can't take care of it, and anyway, the boat goes right on downhill, and it's funny.
Yeah. But there's, if those boats could talk, right, the stories that they'd have to tell. But you've got some really beautiful shots of lots of different boats.
I remember the old Dell Ann I worked on. That was Captain Rob Willis. She was built in the 50s. Old wood boat, and anyway, Captain Rob's still alive, but he was no longer able to do it, and anyway, she wound up. He sold her, and she went to Beaufort, South Carolina. Frogmore. You ever heard of Frogmore?
I've heard of it. I have no idea where it is.
Frogmore. So anyway, she wound up down there, and when Hurricane Matthew came through, she actually turned over to the dock and sank. And anyway, a friend of mine lives down there, and he sent me the last picture I got. They had put her on the shore, and they crushed her up.
Oh, wow.
So sometimes they have sad endings.
Wow. Oh, gracious.
I guess there's no good way to die, I don't reckon.
No good way to end it. I've got some questions for you, but do you have anything else before we go there?
I would like to talk about one more person if
Please
we
do.
if we got
We've got time.
got
Sure.
time. We might have to go segment 2.
No.
I like to ramble.
Look, I'd love to talk to you, so we can talk as long as you want to.
My grandfather died at a young age. I barely remember him, and I never had a grandfather figure.
Mm-hmm.
But when I got out of school, I know him as Finnboy. You ever heard the name Finnboy?
Oh, yes.
Housey Paul Rose, which he was Aunt Jeannie's son. So it's still kind of family.
Yeah.
Well, Fim, he come to me. I got out of school, and I didn't go to college. Had no desire to go to college. I was going to work in the water and be rich. And anyway,
See, it worked out for you.
it worked out perfect. I wouldn't change anything I've done in my life.
No.
But anyway, Fim, he asked me, said, "Come on, man." Everybody called you man.
Man, yeah.
Come on.
Yeah.
Won't you go? I need somebody to go fishing with me. Well, I went. I thought Fim was an old man. He was like in his 60s, but
He was
at 18, 19 years old, he was an old man. I'm an old man now. Well, anyway, Fim showed me. He taught me the facts of life. He was a grandfather figure that I never had, and of course, now sometimes we'd fight like cats and dogs, argue. Matter of fact, he brought me home from the Cape. I don't know if he fired me or I quit. I know we got in a big argument because I was a young man. I had other things on my mind, and he wanted to be to the Cape whether they caught him fish or not. I'm there now. I'd rather be there.
Yeah.
But anyway, I took my oilskins and left, stomped off, hollered. He hollered, "You ain't coming back with me." And
I don't know if I quit or if I was fired.
yeah. Anyway,
I love it.
I think it was 2 or 3 days later. He called out, "Come on, man, go back fishing with me." So anyway,
So you went.
So I went. I spent a lot of time with him, mostly in the winter months fishing. Of course, he's channeling at it by himself in the summer, but he was first class.
He's a good man.
I'll tell you this one. Do you remember Pat DeVito?
Yes.
Pat worked on a boat with
I
us.
haven't thought about him in so long.
Now Pat was old.
He was always old.
He was old.
But he was a character.
Well, he went fishing with us.
Oh,
and
my
of course,
goodness.
I was a teenager, 18, 19 years old. So who got mama?
Yeah, you.
Me.
You.
I pulled home. Well, Pat, bless her, and I thought the world of him, but Pat was old, he was slow, he was wore out. And I asked him one day, I asked Finnboy, I said, "Finnboy, Pat's killing me. I can't pull all this net." This was long before net reels. You pulled the mess by hand, and
Yeah.
I said, "Pat's killing me." I said, I'm young, but I can't do it all. I said, "What in the world do you keep taking him for?" And he chewed tobacco. Finnboy chewed tobacco, and he'd take his 2 fingers, do like that. He could spit and hit that wall over there. He could hit that light switch.
Good aim.
And he done that, and he spit. He says, "Son, let me tell you something." He says, "When I pull up there and blow that horn," he said, "after a while, see that light come on, and Pat will waddle down these steps, and he'll get in the truck, and he don't complain, and we go." He said, "When I go to your house and blow the horn," he said, "I don't never know if you're in there, if you're coming out, if you're going, or what." I said, "Well, good enough. I'll take that." So we feast a lot together.
That's funny. Oh, that is so funny to me. Oh, yeah, I had forgotten about him. Oh, my goodness.
Pat DeVito. And he'd eat anything that come out of that water.
Yeah.
Those speckled hard crabs you see in the ocean,
Yeah.
they'd come up, he would clean them, and the muffler coming up beside the cabin, he would lay them on top of that muffler and keep turning them over. I kid you not.
Did you ever try it?
No.
I don't think I would.
I actually cooked some shrimp one time on it, on another boat. I
Yeah.
would lay them up there, just warm it up a little bit.
Yeah. Oh my
And
goodness.
some of them smaller boats, they take a pair of, we call them not vice grips, channel lock pliers.
Yeah.
You get that around a can of soup and hold it where the exhaust pipe comes out that heat,
Yeah.
and keep dipping it, and cook you a can of soup.
Hey. Oh my goodness, the things you've done. The things you have done. You've worked in your water on the water all your life. What kind of things have you done?
Well, I started out fishing with Finnboy, and then started on trawler some. I've done some shrimping. We did some flounder fishing. I've, I've been, I think we worked far as Ocean City, Maryland, on that. Did a little bit of scalloping, mostly shrimping, and of course then I got out of it and went on to pursue a career with, I think I was 30 with Carter County local government. And looking back now, I'm glad I did because I can see the light. I'm ready to
Yes.
come home. But my goal was to work somewhere and get a retirement and come back. But I don't see that happening.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, it's changed a lot.
Well, you speak of change. Zach Davis, you know Zach. Zach built a new boat, brand new boat, and I went from, I guess it was 20 plus years from working in the water to actually going shrimping with Zach. I take time off and would go in the best of it. And I've actually told Zach that I feel like I had the opportunity, because there was a long period that I didn't do it, that I actually stepped into the future of the technology today. What I mean, you could tape the window shut on his boat and leave the dock, go anywhere you want to go. It's so much difference than
Yeah.
an old compass there, and it fogged over, and you're trying to find out where you're at. You didn't know where you were at to start with. The Lord blessed a lot of these old time fishermen and brought them home.
Yes. Oh yes. Yeah.
Now you don't even have to have windows.
Yeah. Right. Right. Because you'll be guided by GPS or
And the modern nets that they have. I mean, we've caught rocks and stuff out there. That stuff that we work with, they would have tore it up.
yeah. Right.
We'll go back to the sink nets. The land. I can't even say
Can't
it.
even say it.
Can't even say it right. The landing.
Yeah.
Okay, your grandparents and I know there was on the shore where we were at. There were net spreads where they hung them out, cotton nets. They laid them out to dry to keep them from rotting.
Yeah.
You'd starve to death of that day.
Right. Yeah. That you would. Well, that's good though that you got to see the changes.
Yeah,
Don't you think?
yeah. I actually, I mean,
Had to be kind of amazing.
I was amazed. And of course, Zach's boat's brand new, state of the art. And I think back of the times that some of the boats I've been in on, wouldn't go again.
Right. Right. You're like, if I can make it home.
We were on the Captain Stacy 2 one time. And it was a good boat, but she leaked like a sieve.
So that ain't a good boat, Billy.
Matter of fact, when we were on her, was right at the last when Oliver Davis sold out to the Japanese. We had a pump in the engine room wired straight to the battery.
Oh my
Run
goodness.
24/7. She pumped.
That's not a good sign that you need that.
No, matter of fact, we were coming up the beach one night, and we had a load of fish on. We had 150 boxes of fish, and of course, everybody's in bed. You take turns at the wheel, and whoever's on watch, every so often you go down and look in the engine room, which now, like Zach's boat, you got cameras. You can see the engine room.
Wow.
He can see the crew on deck right there on his screen.
Where he's sitting.
Anyway, I went there. Of course, you go to the back door, and of course, there's a little light there. I flipped on, and you could see the motor. And I looked, and there was boards floating under the motor. So I run back in. As I come by the bunk room, I beat on the door. I said, "Boys, somebody needs to get up and go to that pump. I'm going to point her towards the beach. I'm not going swimming tonight."
Oh my goodness.
What it was, the pump had got clogged up, and the pump was working. It was just clogged up. They couldn't pump. So the guys got up because I was to the wheel, and I pointed her toward the beach.
Oh my goodness.
I want to be as close to the beach as I could be.
Yeah. Don't know how to swim too
And
far.
this was winter time.
Yeah, it'd been nice and warm.
So,
Wow.
like I said, the Lord blessed a lot of people.
Yeah, for sure. A lot of prayers.
Yeah.
Okay, before we end, I just want to throw this at you and see what you got, because I know you got some good ones of these. Some of the sayings that we have around here that Daddy and I talk about this sometimes, and we'll kind of throw them back and forth. But what are some of your favorite sayings? Because you said one like "leak like a sieve," like
Leak like a sieve.
So can you? I'm putting you on the spot, but can you think of any?
There's probably a million right now.
Can't think of one.
Well, I'll say this because I know I'll probably have friends listening, and I'm gonna have critics.
That's all right.
Heidi's my biggest critic. But if anybody knows me, and it's really not a local saying, but I'm gonna go ahead and clear the air and put it on there.
Okay.
I'm gonna say mercy. Everybody knows me or know that I'm going to say that. And anyway,
it covers a lot though.
Leak like a sieve. What you been mimicked?
Been mimicked. Yeah.
What some of you got? Help me out here.
Well, no. Well, I'll remind you of some that you've posted. You posted one recently. It was blowing, and you said you're trying to get out the harbor. And you said, do you remember what you said?
Let's see. That was last week. I don't remember.
I've got him on the spot, y'all.
You got me on. Stacy has finally silenced me.
Look, Heidi, you didn't think it was possible, and I have done it. No, you said that it was blowing. What was it you said? Blowing a pop cod. Something. I've heard you say that.
A pop cod. That's the local. That's a local thing. If it's blowing a gale here, it's blowing a pop cod. The community I was talking about, Smith Island, Maryland. Mm-hmm. They call it a fuzz cod.
That's the same thing?
Yep.
Okay.
They kind of actually speak a lot like us because they've been isolated
mm-hmm.
in the middle of Chesapeake Bay.
Yeah.
It was a place that I went that I felt home.
Wow. I have to check that out. That sounds interesting. But you post some of the funniest things. But with that, you said it was blowing a gale or something, and you're trying to get out, and you had a big tidal wave picture.
One of the sayings I've heard all my life is, and it don't matter what it is, it could be referring to cold, it could be hot, it could be snow, it could be anything. I'm going to use cold.
Okay.
And it would be, well, it ain't been this cold since little Michael was a baby. I don't know who little Michael was.
That's the truth. I've heard that.
Have you heard that?
Uh-huh.
Or it ain't blowed this hard since little Michael was a baby. Everything had to do with little Michael being a baby.
Ain't been this hot. Yeah.
Skeeters ain't been this bad since little Michael was a baby.
That's the truth.
Ain't been this many shrimp since little Michael was a baby.
Yeah, that's the truth. Oh my goodness, I'd forgotten about that one. Whoever little Michael is.
I'd like to know who little Michael was.
Whoever it was, he had a bad time because it was the coldest it's ever been, the hottest it's ever been. Skaters were, it was pretty bad. Oh, that is so funny. Well, Billy, our time is up. Will you come back?
Yeah.
Because
come back for segment 2.
Segment 2.
Mercy, you guys ready? You ready for segment 2? Maybe we need to study up a little bit. And you can pick some subjects.
I'll shoot you some subjects, and you can study up. Mercy, no, that's going to be in my head.
Yeah.
Well, I have enjoyed this the best it's ever been. So thank you for coming, and we'll get you back here.
All right, Stacy, it's good to see you again. Are you going to be back home full time, or you ain't back home full time?
I'm not full time. Wish I was.
You need to get your roots back here where they belong.
If I know it, I wish I could afford it, but that's a whole nother story. All right.
Amen.
Thank you.
All right.
Thank you again for joining us to The Landing. This podcast is brought to you by the Core Sound Waterfowl Museum and Heritage Center. I am your host, Stacy Davis Baisden, and today's podcast was produced by April Davidson. Tune in next week as we continue learning, sharing, and remembering together. If you'd like to hear more, check out our previous episodes where you get your podcasts. Until then, stay safe and be kind.